Was humanity truly alone in the universe, or had we simply been blind to forces that had watched us for eons? Somewhere far beyond the edge of our mapped stars, an artifact waited silent, immovable, and impossible. It pulsed faintly against the darkness of space, like the heartbeat of a creature older than any civilization, older than the first fire, older than the first thought of humankind. And when we found it, nothing would ever be the same. The first sight of it came from a survey probe drifting near the outer rim of the Cygnus Rift. Its sensors flared with signals. That should have been impossible. Energy patterns not born of star or planet, vibrations that resonated at a frequency so precise it seemed. Aware, the probe's camera feed displayed something that looked at first like a shattered moon, jagged and blackened, floating with no orbit, no gravity. But then the shape shifted. Angular, geometric, almost deliberate. An artifact, ancient and alien, etched with designs that hummed with a language we could not read, but somehow felt.cc. The first human to see it up close was Dr. Alara Voss, a Xena historian with a reputation for questioning everything. She stepped onto the derelict observation deck of the Arcturus station, its windows looking out onto the artifact as though it were the only star in the sky. The silence was thick, pressing. And then the artifact pulsed softly at first, a gentle shimmer along its fractured edges. But when the pulse touched the station, it wasn't just light that moved. The air itself seemed to vibrate. A low, resonant hum began to echo in her chest, as though the universe had found her heartbeat and mirrored it back. Humans had encountered strange objects before, meteors, wrecks, relics, but this was different. There was intent in its design, purpose. Alara traced her fingers along the console, translating signals and patterns as the artifact responded, shifting in ways that no technology could explain. And then she saw it, a projection, not of light, not of hologram, but of memory. A vision of a species long extinct, towering, scaled, draped in iridescent wings, constructing machines that bent reality itself. Dragons or something like them, moving through the void, carrying civilizations on their backs. Civilization not just surviving among stars, but commanding them. Alara's voice trembled as she spoke over comms. It's showing us something. Not just what they were, but what they became, and what they left behind. For us, aboard the vessel Odyssey, engineers and scientists crowded the viewing deck. The artifact's energy field pulsed stronger, interacting with human biology in ways that defied the laws of physics. Instruments went haywire. Gravitation sensors fluctuated, comms scrambled. And then came the first anomaly, a shadow, vast and serpentine, moving across the artifact, seen by all but understood by none. The crew swore it wasn't a reflection, wasn't a trick of the mind. Something had awakened. Something alive. Weeks turned into months. Alara's team deciphered fragments of data from the artifact. It spoke of a sentinel, a guardian left in wait for the species capable of comprehending the relic's power. The warning was clear. Only those who understood the resonance of life itself could touch what lay inside without being destroyed. But humanity had never been content with warnings. A secondary expedition was launched, this time with a more direct approach. The Odyssey descended toward the artifact, weaving through ion storms that shimmered like molten glass. Sensors detected not only energy, but movement. Beneath the artifact, massive forms stirred. The scans were indecipherable, shadows within shadows, scales glinting like stars, eyes unseen yet unmistakably present. And then, the first contact. The airlocks opened. Gravity fluctuated, making the crew stagger. The artifact pulsed, and a bridge of light formed, stretching from the vessel to the surface. Dr. Voss and her team stepped onto it, their boots trembling against the unseen ground. The surface felt alive. The material was cold, but it hummed with awareness, and the moment Alara touched it, the entire bridge vibrated, sending waves of energy back through the Odyssey. She saw them then, dragons or creatures close enough to draw the parallel. 3 of them, immense yet graceful, wings folded, eyes half closed, as if in slumber. Their scales reflected the nebulae overhead, each movement rippling light across the bridge. The artifact wasn't just a relic, it was a cradle, a beacon, a summoning device. And the creatures were waiting. Humanity froze, no one moved. But the artifact had a plan of its own. A sudden tremor shook the bridge. Alarm screamed. The dragons stirred, eyes opening in tandem, revealing intelligence, ancient and calculating. They weren't hostile yet, but their gaze carried the weight of 1,000 civilizations, each lost, each failed. One step from the artifact, and reality itself seemed to bend, the laws of physics warping around its presence. Then came the signal, clear this time. Not in any language, but a vibration through the mind, pure thought. Do you understand what you hold? Ilura's hands shook. She whispered back, though she knew the creatures could hear, or perhaps feel, her intent. We will learn, we will protect. We will rise. The dragons tilted their heads. The artifact pulsed again, brighter now, revealing a map of the stars, a path to civilizations that had once touched the edge of existence and vanished. But it was more than a map. It was a challenge, a test. Humanity's next step, the bridge to a future that had always seemed out of reach. The calm shattered in an instant. A fleet of drones appeared, shimmering in the darkness of the Cygnus Rift. Machines built for war, dispatched by unknown factions, their sole purpose, claim the artifact, enslave or destroy any who opposed. They moved with lethal precision, engines humming in synchrony, scanning the surface of the artifact with hostile intent. The dragon stirred fully now, wings unfurling with a sound that ripped through the void. The Odyssey rocked as the first drones opened fire, energy beams slicing the bridge, and Ilara realized, with a thrill that bordered on terror, that the artifact had chosen humanity, not merely to witness, but to defend it. One dragon leapt into the void, wings beating against the vacuum, light reflecting off its scales like shattered galaxies. It moved with impossible speed, tearing through the drones, every strike precise, every movement a calculated dance of survival and power. 2 more followed, forming a triad of guardians around the artifact, forcing the enemy into retreat. But then came the tremor beneath their feet, deeper than the pulse of the artifact, a sound that seemed to rise from the core of a dead star. The relic's surface cracked, a new form emerging from within, something alive, something sentient, something that predated even the dragons. Its shape was indescribable, a confluence of shadow, metal, and living energy. And as it rose, the air itself shivered, the nebulae bending around it as though in recognition. Ilara backed away, heart pounding, realizing that the artifact wasn't just a key to the past, or a weapon against enemies, it was a doorway. And something, long dormant, had just begun to stir on the other side. The dragons roared in unison, a sound that resonated through the bones of the Odyssey. The artifact pulsed brighter than ever, casting elongated shadows across the stars. And in that moment, humanity understood, whatever lay ahead, it would demand every ounce of courage, ingenuity, and defiance we could summon. But before anyone could act, the energy surged outward, enveloping the bridge in blinding light. Alarms screamed. Engines failed. And when the light receded, one dragon was missing. One human was thrown into darkness, and the artifact had moved. Somewhere in the vast expanse of space, the future of humanity had been rewritten, and the stars were watching. The void stretched endlessly around the Odyssey, stars smearing into streaks as the vessel drifted in the wake of the artifact's sudden relocation. The missing dragon had vanished into nothingness, leaving behind only ripples of energy that shimmered like auroras across the fabric of space. The crew moved cautiously, their footsteps echoing in the corridors, minds heavy with questions that had no immediate answers. Ilara Voss stood at the observation deck, staring into the artifact's new position, a jagged, blackened asteroid now hovering near the edge of the Andromeda Rift, where no charted star dared exist. The first fragment of truth came through the sensors. Deep within the asteroid's shadowed crevices, a faint resonance hummed not random noise, but a language of vibration. Every pulse carried layers of information, like overlapping messages folded into one. It spoke of ancient civilizations, extinct before humanity had even left Earth's oceans, and of guardians left behind, creatures of wing and flame, programmed to protect the secrets encoded in the relic. Elura's fingers trembled over the console, running simulations, decoding patterns that twisted physics into something almost magical. "The resonance, it's alive," she whispered, voice catching. "Not just data, it's conscious." The crew had learned to fear the artifact, but they had also begun to understand it. Human curiosity, reckless and relentless, refused to let the relic remain a mystery. Engineers and xenobiologists pored over the readings, constructing algorithms that mimicked the vibrations, attempting to speak in return. Their efforts were crude, far from perfect, but it worked. A response came, subtle, a flicker of light along the asteroid's surface, like a pulse of approval or perhaps a warning. Meanwhile, the lost dragon had not vanished entirely. It had plunged through a shimmering veil of nebula gas, into a labyrinth of fractured asteroids, illuminated by the dying light of a collapsed star. Its scales caught the radiation, scattering prismatic colors across the void as it flew, hunting, waiting. Here, time felt elastic. Seconds stretched into minutes. The dragon's instincts guided it, drawing it toward a hidden world beneath the debris, a hollow planet whose surface was riddled with chasms glowing with alien energy, veins of crystalline material pulsing with the same resonance as the artifact. This world had once been a hub for a civilization that predated humanity's oldest myths, a place of knowledge so vast it threatened to overwhelm any mind unprepared for it. On the Odyssey, tension escalated as Council interference became apparent. Long-range sensors detected the approach of Dreadnought's massive vessels of unknown origin, their armor blacker than void, engines thrumming with oppressive power. The Council had apparently decided the artifact could not remain in human hands. Their arrival was silent at first, like predators circling in darkness. Then sudden bursts of energy sliced across space as scanning drones scoured the asteroid, probing for the relic, for any life forms. Humanity's response was instinctive, raw, unyielding. The crew enacted emergency maneuvers, weaving the vessel through gravitational eddies created by the nebula storms. Sensors flickered and alarms screamed as gravity bent and twisted in ways that violated all conventional knowledge. Dr. Voss's heart raced, but she smiled grimly. "We adapt." "That's what humans do," she said, almost to herself, watching her engineers reroute power to shields and thrusters, improvising solutions in real time as the Odyssey danced through impossible hazards. In the distance, the first glimpse of the hidden world appeared. Jagged mountain ranges stretched into clouds of iridescent gas. Chasms opened like wounds in the surface, glowing veins of energy tracing patterns that resembled the artifact's pulsing light. And across the horizon, the missing dragon descended, wings slicing through the mist, roaring into the emptiness in a sound that resonated with the asteroid itself. The pulse of its roar triggered a reaction in the relic. The surface fractured further, exposing an entrance carved into crystalline rock, a stairway of light that spiraled deep into the planet's core. Ilara's team understood instinctively that the path was dangerous. Gravity shifted unpredictably, and the chasms threatened to swallow anyone who misstepped. Yet humanity pressed forward. They adapted, climbing, tethering, using tools they had engineered from scraps and intuition, risking lives because curiosity outweighed fear. Alongside them, the artifact pulsed, reacting to every human heartbeat, guiding the steps of those who dared approach it. Inside the crystalline labyrinth, fragments of the past revealed themselves. Ancient star maps etched into the walls depicted civilizations that had vanished long before the Council rose to power. Strange creatures, winged and scaled, were drawn alongside humans in fated murals, a symbiosis that suggested partnership, not domination. Genetic anomalies traced on the walls hinted that humanity had once shared a distant lineage with these beings, a connection that had been lost in the shuffle of millennia. Each revelation added weight to the question: had humans truly evolved alone, or was their ingenuity a spark rekindled from something older, something alien? The dragons, meanwhile, had become active participants in this unfolding. Their movements were not random. They acted with precision, guiding the humans past hidden traps, protecting them from collapsing pathways, shielding them from the Council's reconnaissance drones. The bond between species deepened with each shared risk, the humans learning to interpret subtle gestures, the tilt of a head, the flick of a tail, the resonance of a wing beat as communication. These were not merely beasts, but sentient allies, their instincts aligned with survival and intelligence, teaching humans that courage and empathy could reshape even the harshest cosmic odds. But the artifact held deeper secrets still. As the humans and dragons descended into the planet's core, they uncovered fractured memories stored in crystalline matrices, holographic remnants of a civilization that had once spanned multiple galaxies. The images were chaotic, overlapping, yet distinct enough to recognize patterns. Fleets of bioengineered vessels, dragons entwined with mechanical constructs, cities suspended in space, all pulsating with the same resonance, now linking the humans to the artifact. Then came a revelation that shocked the team to their core: the Council's reports, salvaged from intercepted transmissions, detailed experiments on life forms combining human and alien DNA, driven by ambition to control evolution itself. The artifact had been hidden, protected, precisely because it threatened their vision of dominion. And yet, here were humans, instinctively navigating the labyrinth, proving adaptability, courage, and empathy, the very traits the Council could never fully manipulate. Outside, the Council dreadnoughts loomed closer, entering the nebula storms with lethal intent. Their weapons, designed to obliterate, malfunctioned against the distorted physics of the environment. The dragons exploited these anomalies, weaving through ion storms, striking with precision. Humanity's ingenuity shone. Engineers repurposed energy discharges from the Odyssey to amplify the dragons' attacks, using feedback loops the Council had never anticipated. Every human action was mirrored by ingenuity, courage, and raw determination, a testament to a species capable of defying the impossible. At the heart of the labyrinth, the humans found the artifact's true form. No longer a simple object, it had reshaped itself into a conduit of pure energy, suspended in a crystalline matrix, connected to the planet's core. It hummed with the memory of civilizations, dragons, and humans yet to come. And then the core pulsed violently, a ripple of energy cascading outward, causing fractures in the planet's surface, sending glowing chasms widening across the alien landscape. It was here that the emotional shift occurred. One of the dragons, the one lost during the initial relocation, approached the humans, eyes wide with recognition and fear. Its body shuddered, scales flaring as it projected images directly into Alara's mind. A glimpse of what the artifact had seen, what it had endured, and a warning of what was coming. The Council's interference was only the beginning. Beyond the nebulous storms and fractured worlds, something older, something vast, stirred. A presence capable of reshaping galaxies, of judging civilizations, of deciding which species were worthy. Alara fell to her knees, overwhelmed by the enormity of it all. Around her, humans and dragons alike understood that the stakes had changed. No longer were they merely protectors of a relic. They were participants in a cosmic reckoning. Humanity's ingenuity, courage, and empathy were not simply traits. They were the only weapons they had against forces that dwarfed even the Council's might. As the Odyssey maneuvered to stabilize above the planet, Council drones pressed in for another assault. But something shifted in the artifact. Its energy flared, sending a wave across the nebula, bending gravity, disrupting communications, rendering technology useless unless guided by intuition and instinct. Humans adapted instinctively, working with the dragons to navigate the chaos. exploiting weaknesses the Council had never anticipated. For a brief moment, it seemed that humanity's stubbornness, ingenuity, and willingness to risk everything could tip the balance in a fight against overwhelming cosmic odds. Then, the artifact pulsed again. From its crystalline core, a projection formed not of maps or relics, but of a living, breathing galaxy, alive with stars, nebulae, and dragons flying among them. It showed humanity not as conquerors, but as participants, allies, custodians of a fragile, interconnected network of civilizations. The revelation was staggering. Humans had not only inherited potential from the ancient species that had built the artifact, they had been chosen, tested, and found capable. But as the image stabilized, the projection fractured violently. A shadow, immense and incomprehensible, swept across the vision. A presence older than the artifact itself, moving through the galaxies, reacting to humanity's emergence. Its intent was unclear, indifferent, curious, or hostile, but the certainty of observation sent a wave of unease through the crew. They realized then that even the artifact, even the dragons, could not shield them from what was awakening. Ilara turned to her team, voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. "This isn't just about survival," she said. "It's about proving that humanity belongs out here, that we can rise to meet what comes. We've been tested before, but this is our reckoning." Above them, the nebula swirled in violent storms, gravity bending in impossible patterns. The Council dreadnought struck again, and the dragons roared, wings slicing through ionized clouds like living blades. The artifact pulsed, responding to both courage and fear, both human and dragon, amplifying the chaos into a symphony of light and sound. And somewhere deep in the labyrinth, hidden in crystalline shadows, the missing dragon let out a cry, a resonance that vibrated through every mind present, human or otherwise, signaling the presence of a new path, a truth yet uncovered, and a choice that would define not just humanity's survival, but its place in the universe. The artifact had moved, the shadow had been seen. And humanity, stubborn, relentless, and unbroken, faced the unknown not with despair, but with the fierce, unwavering resolve that had carried them from Earth to the stars. The journey was far from over. The cosmic reckoning had only begun. The labyrinth of crystalline corridors stretched deeper than any sensor could chart, each pulse of the artifact resonating through every stone, every shard of reflective crystal. The air vibrated with a hum that seemed to speak directly to the human nervous system, threading itself into thoughts, fears, and memories. Ilara Vus paused at the edge of a chasm, wings of the missing dragon folded behind her, scales glowing faintly in response to the artifact's rhythm. The creature's eyes, intelligent and unervingly patient, met hers. There was a question in that gaze, a challenge, and she realized, with a chill, that they had never truly understood the dragons before. Not their power, not their motives, not the depth of their history entwined with the artifact. The artifact had drawn them here for a reason, and the revelation came slowly, like waters seeping through rock. Ancient glyphs etched into the crystalline walls began to resonate with the dragon's presence, forming images. Wars waged across stars, dragons not as predators, but as guardians, entrusted with civilizations that had shaped galaxies. Some had fallen, betrayed by those they protected. Others had vanished, leaving only traces in memory and energy. And here, at the heart of the labyrinth, the humans were beginning to see why they had been chosen. One of the dragons, the one that had initially gone missing, shifted closer to a wall, pressing a claw against the glyphs. Light shimmered, revealing a hidden chamber beneath the surface. The humans hesitated, but instinct won over fear. They followed, hearts pounding, adrenaline sharpening their senses. As they entered, the room unfolded like a vault of living history. Holographic projections flickered, half-decayed and fractured, but unmistakable. Beings of dragon and human hybrid lineage, moving with intelligence and empathy across civilizations. Among them, humans were shown wielding tools, interpreting resonance, shaping technology with intuition proof that the alliance between species was not merely practical, but essential. Dr. Voss's breath caught as a sudden vision flared across the walls. A dragon, enormous and radiant, carried the first humans across a void, teaching them, guiding them, even sacrificing itself in the defense of fledgling settlements. And yet, the same vision fractured, twisting into images of betrayal. Council operatives experimenting on dragons, combining genetic material with humans, attempting to harness what had once been sacred. The flicker ended, leaving the chamber in darkness. Ilara's hands shook as she realized that the Council's motives were far more sinister than anyone had suspected. They hadn't merely wanted the artifact. They had wanted control over the lineage, over the symbiosis itself. A sudden tremor ran through the floor, shaking crystals loose, scattering light across the walls. The humans braced themselves. Outside, in the nebulous storms, the Council dreadnoughts had followed, slipping through fractured space like predators through a maze. Their weapons ignited the storm, energy beams slicing through plasma clouds, making the void itself quiver. The dragons responded immediately, wings snapping open, scales glittering with refracted light, each movement precise, anticipating every strike. Humans scrambled, improvising defenses and weaponry, using resonance amplifiers to turn the artifact's pulse into a shield. Every choice mattered, every decision could mean life or death. But then came the unexpected. The missing dragon, the one leading them here, froze mid-flight, scales flaring violently. A pulse radiated from the artifact that none of the humans had felt before, sharp, insistent, almost accusatory. The dragon's eyes shifted, and in a projection of pure resonance, it revealed a hidden truth. Its origin was not simply as a guardian. It had been created by the ancient civilization, whose memory the artifact preserved, a hybrid of dragon, human, and technology, engineered to maintain the balance of life across galaxies. Its entire species had been designed to test civilizations, to determine which could handle the power of the artifact responsibly. The Council's experiments had been trivial compared to the magnitude of this creation. Ilara staggered backward, the revelation pressing against her chest. You're not just a dragon," she whispered, awe mingled with fear. "You're a sentinel, a weapon, and a test." The creature's resonance confirmed it, rippling through the minds of everyone present. It was alive in ways that defied biology, physics, even consciousness as humans understood it. And it was watching them, judging them, shaping them, guiding them. The tension snapped violently as the Council's dreadnoughts broke through the nebulous defenses, opening fire. Energy beams carved arcs across the labyrinth's crystalline walls, fragmenting projections, sending shards of light spiraling through the corridors. Humans and dragons moved as one, improvising, adapting, their coordination a testament to instinct, empathy, and shared purpose. Engineers rewired the ship's thrusters mid-flight. Dragons leveraged gravitational anomalies to launch themselves with lethal precision, and Ilara herself used resonance amplifiers to synchronize human movement with the dragon's wing beats. Every tactic was raw, untested, improvisation meeting instinct head-on. Amid the chaos, a human crew member, Lieutenant Kale Saren, discovered an anomaly in the artifact's pulse. It wasn't just sending energy. It was encoding memory, a repository of events, beings, and knowledge. Kale realized that if they could synchronize their minds with the resonance, they could access the artifact's database in real time. But doing so required a connection deeper than anything humans had ever attempted, a merging of thought, emotion, and instinct, shared with the dragons themselves. Fear and doubt surged. Could humanity endure such a fusion without being destroyed? Logic screamed against the impulse, caution warned of insanity. But courage, stubbornness, and curiosity, the very traits that had brought them this far, drove them forward. Ilara nodded to Kale. "Do it. We either rise together, or we fail alone." The connection began. Waves of light surged from the artifact, wrapping around human and dragon alike, threading them into a lattice of memory and knowledge. The walls dissolved into streams of energy, visions of galaxies, lost civilizations, and extinct species flashing through their minds. They saw dragons falling in ancient wars, humans rising from fledgling colonies, technology shaping worlds, civilizations destroyed by arrogance. And then, at the center, a revelation so vast it fractured understanding. A presence older than the artifact itself, something that had seeded the galaxy with life and destruction in equal measure, now stirring in response to their intrusion. The revelation struck Alara like lightning. The Council, the dreadnoughts, the experiments all were minor ripples compared to this entity. It was not merely observing. It was assessing humanity. Their choices, courage, empathy, and reckless curiosity had caught its attention. The artifact had been a beacon, a bridge to this entity, and now the test had escalated beyond anything the humans or dragons had imagined. Suddenly, the artifact pulsed violently, throwing everyone into disarray. A fracture opened in the crystalline floor, revealing a hidden chamber beneath. Inside, a human figure lay unconscious, yet connected to the artifact in a way none of them had expected, its body marked with the same energy patterns as the dragon's, as if genetically attuned to the relic. It was a being they had never seen, yet familiar, a key to understanding the artifact's true design. And when it stirred, the chamber filled with a resonance that threatened to tear minds apart. A voice not heard but felt. The test is not over. The reckoning begins. Ilara's heart pounded. The humans had fought battles, outwitted machines, bonded with dragons, but nothing had prepared them for this. The being, the resonance, the entity in the void, they were facing not just a challenge of survival, but an awakening of forces older than stars. And the dragons, their allies, their guides, trembled with recognition and fear. In that moment, everything shifted. Humanity's understanding of their place in the galaxy fractured and reformed. The Council was no longer the enemy. It was an obstacle, a pawn, an irrelevance in the face of the vast conscious machinery of life itself. The artifact was not a weapon, not a tool, not a relic, it was a crucible. And the midpoint revelation slammed into them with undeniable force. Survival, courage, ingenuity, and empathy alone were not enough. They had to transcend. And then, as the artifact pulsed once more, the missing dragon spread its wings and roared, not in aggression, but in defiance. A wave of resonance burst from its body, reshaping the labyrinth, bending gravity, disrupting the Council dreadnoughts, and opening a path toward the hidden chamber. But as the humans followed, hearts pounding, Kale's eyes widened in shock. The unconscious figure had opened their eyes, and in those eyes was a reflection of every dragon, every human, and every ancient civilization connected to the artifact. A truth unthinkable revealed itself. The being was both human and dragon, past and future, guardian and observer, and it knew more than anyone could imagine. It spoke without words, resonance vibrating through the hearts and minds of all present. The galaxy's balance is in motion. Your choices now will echo beyond stars. Prepare to rise or fall. The labyrinth trembled again. The artifact's pulse accelerated. The Council dreadnoughts surged forward, and the dragons spread their wings, wings of fire and light cutting through the void. Humanity stood at the threshold of revelation and chaos, their instinct to protect clashing with the incomprehensible scale of what lay ahead. Fear warred with courage, logic with emotion, duty with survival. And as they stepped toward the chamber, toward the being, toward the unknown, one thought crystallized in Alara's mind. Nothing they had fought, nothing they had survived, had prepared them for the scale of this truth. And yet, for the first time, she understood that humanity, stubborn, inventive, empathetic, reckless, was the galaxy's only hope to meet it. The artifact pulsed one final shattering time, and the labyrinth fell silent. The artifact pulsed steadily now, no longer erratic, as if the trials, the chaos, and the courage of humanity had earned its attention. Alara Voss stood at the threshold of the crystalline chamber, watching the human-dragon hybrid stir, its eyes reflecting the nebulae outside like pools of liquid starlight. For a heartbeat, time seemed to slow. The labyrinth had fallen silent. The Council's dreadnoughts lingered in orbit, immobilized by the artifact's energy field, as though the relic itself had declared a truce. The dragons crouched nearby, wings partially extended, their scales shimmering with the reflected glow of the pulsating crystal. They were guardians, guides, and witnesses to the moment, but they waited. They had never interfered fully, they had always been the tests. And now the final measure of humanity's worth hung in the balance. The hybrid rose to its feet, its body bridging the space between dragon and human, its form radiant yet unsettling, a living testament to the intelligence, resilience, and symbiosis encoded into the galaxy long before humans had walked their first planets. It stepped forward, reaching out a claw-like hand that bore both scales and flesh. Ilara, trembling, extended her own hand. As their fingertips met, a resonance filled the chamber, a harmony so profound that the air itself vibrated. Memories of dragons long gone, humans long forgotten, civilizations rising and falling across eons, all threaded into the pulse, merging consciousnesses across time. For a brief moment, Ilara saw what the artifact had always intended, the future of humanity intertwined with the Guardians, a galaxy bound not by fear or conquest, but by empathy and courage. Outside, the Council ships hesitated, their engines failing in the face of a force they could not comprehend or dominate. Their operatives, once determined to seize the artifact, now watched with unease, realizing that their arrogance had been measured against something far older and wiser than themselves. The hybrid's resonance pulsed outward, communicating not threats, but understanding. The Council, for all its military might and political authority, could not bend the artifact, the dragons, or the truth it guarded. Their intentions, however strategic, were irrelevant. Humanity had proven something the galaxy had not seen in millennia. Ingenuity, empathy, and defiance were enough to earn respect, even from forces beyond comprehension. The labyrinth began to transform around them. Crystal walls melted into shimmering planes of light, stairways forming and vanishing as though the planet itself were alive and aware, guiding the humans and dragons toward the core. Within that core, the artifact revealed its final secret, a projection of stars and civilizations not just as maps or memories, but as living networks vibrant with possibility. Dragons soared across the constellations, their wings carrying echoes of life from planet to planet. Humans moved alongside them, creating, protecting, learning, and teaching in a dance of evolution and harmony. It was not prophecy. It was potential, a vision of what could be achieved when species rose above instinctual fear and embraced shared purpose. Ilara stepped closer to the projection, feeling the hum of the artifact resonate within her very bones. The hybrid spoke again, not in words, but in thought, in resonance. The galaxy has tested you. You have failed in part, succeeded in part, but your choices have proven the capacity for balance. The dragons, the artifact, the worlds, all are in your hands now. Protect, guide, remember. Her breath caught. She understood fully that the relic had not simply been a weapon, nor a prize. It had been a mirror, a measure of humanity's character, its resilience, and its empathy in the face of the unknowable. And in passing that test, humanity had inherited not power, but responsibility. A distant roar echoed from one of the chasms, drawing her gaze. The missing dragon, the sentinel, took to the air, wings slicing through the iridescent clouds of the alien world. Humans and dragons shared a silent, wordless acknowledgement of one another. Bonds had formed here that transcended instinct, hierarchy, or fear. Kale Saren, watching from the observation point above, let a laugh escape equal parts relief, awe, and triumph. "We've done it," he said, though even his voice trembled under the weight of what had transpired. We're part of this now." And yet, the artifact pulsed one last time. The hybrid stepped back, the resonance fading slowly but deliberately. The labyrinth settled, the glowing chasms dimmed, and the planet exhaled in silence. The stars beyond the nebulae stretched infinitely, indifferent yet witness to the alliance that had formed, to the courage that had been proven. Humanity had survived, yes, but more importantly, it had adapted, learned, and demonstrated a capacity for empathy the Council could never manufacture, and which no ancient force could ignore. The Council's dreadnoughts retreated slowly, their engines flaring as they vanished into the nebula storms. There was no victory for them here, only the uneasy acknowledgement that some forces' empathy, courage, ingenuity could not be controlled or bought. They left behind silence, which felt heavier than any explosion, heavier than any battle. And the artifact remained, not dormant, but alive, a beacon, a memory, and a promise that the galaxy was vast, ancient, and full of unknowns, and that humanity had finally earned its place among them. The dragons lingered, their eyes reflecting the nebulae like pools of memory. They had taught patience, courage, and instinct to the humans, but they too had learned. They had learned that even a species as young and unpredictable as humanity could rise to meet the impossible, to adapt when pushed to the brink, and to forge bonds beyond comprehension. Elara stepped forward, touching the largest dragon's scaled flank. Its resonance wrapped around her mind, a gentle affirmation, a shared heartbeat. For a moment, there was nothing but understanding, connection, and quiet triumph. Elara turned to the human-dragon hybrid. It looked back, expressionless yet full of comprehension. Its gaze lingered on humanity's fragile, inventive, stubborn nature, then flickered toward the stars. And in that gaze, Elara saw the first spark of a promise, that the galaxy would remember them, not as conquerors nor as pawns, but as participants in the dance of civilizations, guardians of life, and witnesses to forces far older than any one species. As the humans prepared to leave the labyrinth, the artifact pulsed one final time. A map of the galaxy formed in the air, constellations glowing faintly, highlighting places where dragons had flown, where humans might venture, and where civilizations might rise again. And somewhere within those lights, echoes of ancient beings whispered, not threats, not warnings, but questions. Will you honor what you have been given? Will you rise to your place among the stars? Elara paused, hand resting against the projection. Her breath came in slow, deliberate pulls. She realized then that humanity's greatest power was not strength, nor technology, nor cunning, but the choice to act, to protect, to empathize, even when the odds were incomprehensible. The dragons beside her stirred, wings flexing. Kale stood quietly, eyes on the nebulae beyond, a mixture of awe and disbelief etched into every line of his face. In the silence that followed, the stars stretched infinitely. The artifact remained, alive and watchful. The Council had withdrawn, their ambitions momentarily thwarted, but the universe was vast and patient. The dragons soared into the sky above the alien world, carrying memory, history, and wisdom across the expanse. Humanity prepared to follow, not as conquerors, not as observers, but as partners in a cosmos that had long awaited their arrival. Elara's voice broke the quiet, soft but firm. We've been tested, and we survived. But survival isn't enough. We have to understand. We have to remember. We have to rise. The hybrid inclined its head once, an acknowledgement. The artifact's pulse slowed, rhythmic now, like a heartbeat shared between worlds, species, and memory. And as the Odyssey lifted from the planet's surface, carrying humans and dragons alike into the unknown, the nebulae stretched around them, vibrant and alive, bending light in ways that made the universe feel intimate, full of potential. Somewhere in the distance, a dragon cried a sound of triumph, of memory, of a bond forged across millennia. Elara felt it resonate through her chest, mingling with hope, fear, and determination. Humanity had left its mark, not through force or dominion, but through courage, ingenuity, and the ability to rise when confronted with the impossible. The galaxy, once silent and indifferent, had taken notice. As stars blurred past the Odyssey, a question lingered in the minds of every human. Every dragon, every consciousness connected to the artifact. When a species has the power to shape destiny, what will they choose to protect, and what will they leave behind? And in the quiet, beneath the pulse of the artifact and the wings of dragons cutting through the void, the answer was not yet written. But humanity had begun.